Now, Rekiya, are you ready? You're mute. Yes, over to you.
Yeah. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So I'm supposed to read a section of Rekiya and Z before I give a short speech, which anybody who knows me knows that I hate doing. So I'm just going to jump straight into the reading, and hopefully there'll be no more time for me to.
Somebody was standing with me somehow. Okay.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to go straight into the reading, and then hopefully by that time there'll be no more time for me to do my speech. Right. So a lot of people have talked about Rekiya's point of view since I started sharing this book, and I wanted to read this section. It's coming from the point of view of Rekiya, of Zainuna. Now, I wrote Rekiya and Z from the perspective of two women, so I alternated between both of them. So this particular section is from Zainuna's point of view, and I will start. Bismillah. I was going to take the opportunity of his absence to clean my father's home office when I heard her. It was early morning, hours before Rekiya would normally join me downstairs for breakfast, and I had made it a point not to intrude upon her until she did. But standing in the corridor between the two rooms, I could not ignore this. The sound was primal, a cross between sobs and groans. It was pain in auditory form. Ya Rob, I prayed, undecided. Whatever she's going through is obviously still going through. Please heal her. I peek into the room and my fears are confirmed. This is not physical pain. Perhaps it would have been better if it was. She sat huddled in Mommy's prayer corner, dressed in her old abaya. Her knees were drawn up and her arms wrapped tightly about it, making her appear even smaller than she was. Small and defenseless, and very hot. Her gaze was glazed, blank and staring at nothing, or at something I could not see. Her body rocked in a front and back motion, and from time to time, the sound emitted from her slightly parted lips, low and frightening. I could almost imagine that it arose, not from her lips, but from the depths of her soul. It sounded gutted. In the scant time it took me to catalog these details, I was crossing the room to her. She did not see me, did not hear me, did not feel me. Even as I sat with her and put my arms around her, shedding tears for her that she probably never did for herself. I knew she had been hurt. She had fainted as much last night. What I hadn't known was that she was still hurt. In fact, I, with my staid life where nothing happens, would never begin to imagine the level of pain she must be feeling. So I did what I do every time I was in over my head. I prayed. Ya Allah, we are your slaves, daughters of your slaves. Your control over us is absolute. Your judgment upon us is assured, and your decree for us is just. I ask you by every name you have called yourself, or revealed in your book, or taught anyone of your creation, or kept with yourself from the knowledge of the unseen, that you make the Quran the spring of our hearts, and the light of our chests, and the banishment for our sadness, and the relief for our distress. This dua was recommended by the Prophet ﷺ for the believer in distress, anxiety, and or despair. It was my mother's favorite dua, and I always thought it was apt, seeing as she was a hafidha of the Quran. I, on the other hand, was too lazy, either to complete my hifdh or to use the dua consistently. But crouching beside the vibrating shell of my friend, the words stumbled from my lips, bursting from somewhere I never knew had retained it until this moment. I repeat the Arabic words over and over, asking for solace for her and forgiveness for myself. Because being a witness to her pain made me realize how easy I've had it and how much I take for granted. The love, security, faith, and family I had been given, all through no effort on mine, buffering me from the harsh reality that is life. I do not know how long we were there, but she eventually quieted down. The rocking stopped, and her eyes focused. She sat against me, limp. Z, I am so tired. In that moment, she was the frailest I ever saw her. And this was a girl who had learned to mask her vulnerability from a very young age. I had only ever seen her significantly discomfited one other time, when her father paid her that visit during a midterm break from Nora. Compared to this, what am I thinking? Nothing compares to this. Right, so that's the end of the reading selection. And when I first started writing as a teenager who didn't connect well with her spouse, with her peers, I didn't have much of an aspiration for it. Writing was just an outlet that it was a means of making sense to me in the jungle of a Nigerian boarding school where everyone seemed to know the rules of engagement except me. I would turn to writing as a hobby time and again as I navigated my way through life. I would publish 2 books. I would fill numerous journals and laptop drives with my words, with the words that my brains just insisted on churning out. Time passed, life evolved, and I became more intentional in my use of words. It became a goal for me to put out what I wanted to read, what seemed to elude me in the tomes of book I devoured all of my lives, to write meaningful stories of Muslims living their lives the best way they knew how. But Rekiya and Z. Rekiya and Z is the culmination of 5 years of sweat and tears, and not all of it was mine. Admittedly, there were breaks in between. There was one almost as long as 2 years, because at times the plots hit too close to home. Other times because, well, life happens. This book has been the most challenging creative experience of my life so far. Not only was I exploring themes that were as complex and as varied as they were often hushed, I was also going through the second most painful transformation of my own personal sense of self. Alhamdulillah, I survived. And now we have this book to celebrate. There really isn't much for me to add about what has been said or what is being said about Rekiya and Z. The conversations it has sparked from the first moment I started sharing with the beta readers up until this moment and this event where these wonderful panelists have done so much, to sell up my book. Those are all the conversations that I always hope it will spark. And I can only pray that these conversations will continue. And that if this humble attempt of mine helps in any way to shape the narration of Muslims in literature, if it brings joy, or it eases the burden, or guides one soul, and as such impacts their family or their friends and their community, then I would consider that this book was a success. I thank everybody who's been here today to celebrate Rekiya and Z with me. The guests of honor, Her Excellency Engineer Naimat Salakoyedele, Omobaye Mrs. Shilon, Dr. Baraka Soni, Professor Rashid Aderiyoyi, my wonderful book review panelists, all the generous sponsors and donors that made this event possible, my wonderful family, in which I include the RZ Launch team. RZ Launch team. You guys did a wonderful job of putting this event together. I couldn't have done it without you. I thank you, everyone present today, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, social media mutuals, and my readers. Everyone who's ever read my writing over the years, spending of the scarcity of their time to peruse the scribbles of my brain. Thank you so much. We will not be here without you. Finally, I will be remiss if I do not speak aloud my gratitude to my Lord. He alone has blessed me with this gift, and his mercies are too numerous for me to count. His pleasure is the most paramount of my writing goals. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khairan for that beautiful speech. For somebody who says she doesn't speak, that was incredibly awesome. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is our question and answer session. But before we do that, because I know quite a few people have asked about how to get it, and because our special guest of honor has encouraged us to make sure this is profitable, we will share a short video on how you can get a copy of the book. So if Brother Abdulwasi could please share that video very quickly, then we'll take questions after that. Or I could be brave and try and share it myself. Is Brother Abdulwasi here? Okay, let me be brave. Let me try this. Okay. Oh, don't laugh at me. Can you hear that?
Of course we can hear you now. You didn't mute your microphone.
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear
The audio. Hold on. I seem to be unable to share the audio. Can you see the video though?
No.
No. Okay. I have been defeated by technology, I'm afraid. Okay, let's go to the question and answer. We will still play this video. So there is a question here, Matia, for you. And there is okay, Aisha Abdul Salim asks, could we all unmute ourselves? Could we all mute ourselves, please? There's a bit of there's feedback. Thank you, Jazakallah Karen. Aisha Abdul Salim asked Matia, what made you decide to write Rekiya and Z? What was your inspiration?
Right. So every time I say this, tell the story, I feel like I should invent some inspiring story because it always sounds weird. But the truth is, I was asleep and I woke up. It was sometime between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and the story outline was in my head. So I had the very complete outline of the story in my head. I don't know from where. I can't take credit for it. So I just got up, picked a pen and paper, and scribbled through 3 pages of story outline. I mean, obviously, in the 5 years it has taken me to go from there to here, I've fleshed it out a bit. I have added the issues that I'm passionate about. I have tried to make the experience as relatable to, the circumstances as possible. But yeah, it was pretty much a dream. That was where the inspiration came from.
Thank you. There was also a question about where and how can we get a copy of the book in Nigeria? Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so right now in Nigeria, the book is available for sale only in Lagos at the moment. It's a Pamarich pharmacy, which is owned by my sister. Wonderful Hyderabad who is smiling at you over there. They have an outlet opposite the local government, Ikeja local government. I'll just let her give us the address since she's right there. Hadra, can you do that? You need to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you, yes.
Yeah, don't take on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
I have two outlets. One is in Lekki. It's on Remiolode, for those that know Lekki axis. And then the second one is in Ikeja. It's just opposite the Ikeja local government. The video that Sister Bashir will be sharing later, you'll be able to see some phone numbers. Once you call the phone numbers, then we will be able to, give you further direction on how to get to the pharmacies. Thank you.
In addition, we're working with a couple of third-party sellers to get the book available to bookshops. Right now, we are still in the negotiation phase, but as soon as it's available, there'll be announcements going up on my social media pages. So if you haven't followed me, you should probably do that. I'm at Facebook and Instagram and Twitter as Dean Progress. That's DEENPROGRESS, Dean Progress. Okay, over to you, Basira.
Okay, I just noticed one question that said, is it available on Amazon? I'll take that. Yes, it is available on Amazon, but Amazon UK and Amazon.com. So
it's also actually available on Book Depository and indie workshops, really all of the major online sellers. It went live internationally a week ago, actually, but we wanted Nigerian audience to also have the opportunity of benefiting from it, which is why we have the local market here in Nigeria, there in Nigeria. So yeah.
okay, Jazakallah khairan.